I remember the exact sound the bullets made when they loaded the rifles. 5 soldiers, 5 guns, all pointed at my chest and around my neck. Hidden beneath the black abaya they'd wrapped me in, like a burial shroud, a small silver cross. The one thing that would send me to hell in their eyes. The one thing that had already brought me heaven. Standing in that courtyard with my back against a stone wall still stained with the blood of the woman they'd executed the week before. I need you to know who I was. Because the girl who wore Dior to breakfast and had servants polish her jewelry every morning, she would have never believed she'd die for a god she'd been taught to hate. Let me take you back. Back to when my biggest problem was choosing. Back to when I thought I knew what power was. My name means noble princess in Arabic, and for 22 years, I lived like I was made of gold. Our palace, and yes, I mean an actual palace, sat on 47 acres in Riyadh. I know because I used to count them when I was bored.
Watching from my bedroom balcony as the sun set over gardens that cost more to maintain each month than most families earn in a lifetime. Marble fountains imported from Italy. Rose gardens tended by a staff of 20. A private mosque with a minaret that pierced the sky like a gilded needle. Every morning, I woke up to the call to prayer echoing from that minaret, and every morning, I felt absolutely nothing. But I performed. Oh, how I performed. I'd wrap myself in designer abayas, black silk from Paris with hand-stitched embroidery that cost $30,000 each. I'd cover my hair with hijabs made of fabric so fine it felt like holding water. I'd kneel on my prayer rug, antique, priceless, imported from Turkey, and I'd press my forehead to the ground and recite words I'd memorized before I could write my own name. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. God is great. God is great. But I never felt him. Not once. Not ever. Have you ever performed a ritual so many times that it becomes just movement? Just empty choreography? That was my entire life. Prayer 5 times a day. Quran recitation. Fasting during Ramadan while my stomach cramped and my head pounded, and all I could think was, why? Why am I doing this? For what? But I couldn't ask those questions out loud. Not in my family. Not in my world. My father is Prince Khalid al-Rashid. You won't find much about him online. Men like him don't need social media presence. They have something far more powerful. Access. Control. Connections that go straight to the top of the kingdom's hierarchy. He'd sit in meetings with ministers and imams, making decisions that affected millions of lives, and then he'd come home and look at me, his only daughter, like I was a beautiful vase. Precious. Expensive. Fragile. And completely useless beyond decoration. Amira, he'd say, that's what I'll call myself here, though it's not my real name. I can't use that, not yet, not while my brothers are still looking for me. Amira, you are the jewel of this family. Your beauty brings us honor. Your silence brings us peace. Your silence. That phrase haunted me. It was carved into my bones. Every time I wanted to ask questions about the religion, about the rules, about why I couldn't drive, couldn't travel, couldn't even go to the mall without a male escort, I heard it. Your silence brings us peace. So I stayed silent. And I stayed gilded. And I died inside a little more each day. My mother didn't help. She was my father's second wife. He divorced the first one when she couldn't give him sons after me. And she was so desperate to keep her position that she became his enforcer. She watched me like a hawk. Checked my phone. Monitored my friendships. Made sure I never spent too long talking to my female cousins about anything deeper than makeup and wedding plans. You have everything, she'd hiss at me whenever I looked even slightly unhappy. A girl in your position should be grateful. Do you know how many women would kill for your life? And I'd look around at my silk curtains and gold leaf ceilings and imported furniture, and I'd think, then let them have it. Let them suffocate in luxury. Let them be a prisoner in a palace. I don't want it anymore. But I never said it. Because I was afraid. Afraid of my father's dead eyes. Afraid of being divorced like my father's first wife, disgraced, cut off, erased from the family like she never existed. Afraid of the religious police. Afraid of hell. I was especially afraid of hell. They taught me about Jahannam since I was 4 years old. The imams described it in detail, the burning, the boiling water poured over your head, the skin that burns off and then grows back so you can burn forever. And they told me exactly how to avoid it. Obey Allah. Obey the Quran. Obey your father. Obey your future husband. Obey. 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 But here's what they never told me. What if you do all of that and still feel dead inside? I was 22 years old, and I felt like a ghost haunting my own life. And then came the announcement that shattered everything. It was a Thursday evening. I remember because Thursdays meant the weekend was starting, and I'd been planning to spend Friday at my cousin Layla's house, the one place I could almost breathe. I was in my room, trying on a new abaya, deep green with gold threading, beautiful, pointless, when my mother knocked. She didn't wait for me to answer. She never did. Your father wants to see you. Downstairs. Now. Her face was strange. Excited but tense, like she was holding a secret that was either going to delight me or destroy me. I felt my stomach drop. What's wrong? I asked. Nothing is wrong. Everything is right. Now come. I followed her down the spiral staircase, my bare feet silent on the cold marble. The stone was always cold in that house, no matter how hot it was outside. Like the whole building was built on ice instead of sand. My father was waiting in his formal sitting room, the one with the massive chandelier and the uncomfortable furniture that was only for important guests. He wasn't alone. 3 men I didn't recognize sat with him, dressed in traditional thobes, sipping Arabic coffee from tiny cups. I knew immediately what this was. No. 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 Please, God, Allah, anyone, no. My father smiled. Actually smiled. I'd seen him smile maybe a dozen times in my entire life. Amira. Come here, daughter. I walked forward, my legs shaking. I kept my eyes down, as I'd been taught. Modest. Obedient. Dead inside. These men have come with a proposal, my father said, his voice warm with satisfaction. Sheikh Ibrahim al-Qahtani has asked for your hand in marriage. It is a tremendous honor for our family. The room tilted. I'd heard that name before. Sheikh Ibrahim. He was 63 years old. A prominent cleric. Extremely conservative. Extremely powerful. He already had 2 wives. I would be his third. I have accepted on your behalf, my father continued, and his smile widened. The wedding will be in 6 weeks. Your mother will begin preparations tomorrow. 6 weeks. I looked up, breaking protocol, but I couldn't stop myself, and I looked at my father's face. I searched for some sign of hesitation. Some flicker of concern for his daughter, his only daughter, his jewel, his precious face. Nothing. His eyes were empty. Black. Like staring into a well with no bottom. And I realized, standing there while those men congratulated my father and my mother beamed with pride, that I wasn't his daughter. I was his transaction. That night, I locked myself in my bathroom, the only room in the palace where I could be truly alone, and I pressed my face against the cold tile floor and I prayed harder than I'd ever prayed in my entire life. Allah, I whispered, my voice breaking, if you're real, if you're there, please. Please. Help me. Save me. Show me a way out. I'll do anything. I'll be better. I'll pray more. I'll memorize more Quran. Just please, don't make me marry him. I waited for an answer. For a sign. For anything. All I heard was the sound of the air conditioning and my own heartbeat and the absolute, crushing silence of a God who wasn't listening. Or maybe couldn't hear me at all. The next morning, they brought him to the palace. Sheikh Ibrahim al-Qahtani arrived in a black Mercedes with tinted windows so dark they looked like holes cut into reality. I watched from my bedroom window as he emerged, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a pristine white thobe and a red checkered shamak. His beard was long and dyed black with henna, even though everyone knew he was over 60. Vanity disguised as piety. My mother knocked frantically on my door. Amira. Amira, he's here. Quick, get dressed, the blue abaya, the expensive one, and make sure your makeup is perfect. He wants to see you. My hands shook as I applied kohl around my eyes. In the mirror, I looked like a bride preparing for a funeral. Or maybe a corpse being dressed for viewing. When I entered the formal sitting room, Sheikh Ibrahim was seated in a place of honor, speaking with my father about investments and political alliances. This wasn't a marriage discussion. This was a business merger, and I was the asset being acquired. "Ah, here she is," my father said, his voice warm with false affection. "Amira, come. Meet your future husband." I kept my eyes lowered as I'd been trained, but I could feel Sheikh Ibrahim's gaze on me. It felt like insects crawling on my skin. "Assalamu alaikum," I whispered. "Wa alaikumu assalam," he replied, and his voice was like gravel scraping against stone. Deep. Authoritative. The voice of a man who'd spent decades telling people what God demanded of them. "Mashallah, she is even more beautiful than you described, Prince Khalid. Modest. Obedient. This pleases me greatly. This pleases me. Not she pleases me. This. Like I was a meal he was about to consume. My daughter has been raised properly," my father said with pride. "She knows the Quran. She has never been alone with a man. She understands her duties as a wife. She will bring great honor to your household, Sheikh Ibrahim. I have no doubt." Sheikh Ibrahim took a long sip of his coffee, still staring at me even though my eyes were fixed on the floor. "Tell me, Amira, do you pray 5 times a day?" "Yes, Sheikh." My voice was barely audible. "Do you wear hijab always, even in the presence of male cousins?" "Yes, Sheikh." "Do you understand that a wife's obedience to her husband is obedience to Allah himself?" My throat tightened. "Yes, Sheikh." "Good. Very good." He set down his coffee cup with a sharp clink. "I will be honest with you, Prince Khalid. My first 2 wives have been disappointing. They question too much. They speak too freely. They forget their place. But this one," he gestured toward me like I was a painting on the wall, "this one has the proper spirit. Broken in, as they say with horses." My father laughed. Actually laughed. And something inside me cracked. Not broke, not yet, but cracked. A hairline fracture in the perfect facade I'd spent 22 years building. After Sheikh Ibrahim left, my mother was ecstatic. "Do you understand what an honor this is?" she gushed, pulling me into my room and immediately opening my closet to assess my trousseau. Sheikh Ibrahim is one of the most respected clerics in the kingdom. His connections, his influence, your children will have access to everything. Everything. He's 63 years old, I said quietly. She froze, then turned to me slowly. What did you say? He's 41 years older than me, Ummi. He already has 2 wives. I'll be the youngest. The newest. The luckiest, she snapped, her excitement curdling into anger. Do you have any idea how many girls would die for this opportunity? He chose you. Out of hundreds of possibilities, he chose you. And you dare to complain? I'm not complaining, You just what? You just want to throw away your family's honor? You just want to humiliate your father? You just want to be selfish and ungrateful like every other spoiled girl in this city? Her words felt like slaps. Each one landed harder than the last. I don't want to marry him, I whispered, and even saying it felt like treason. Please, Ummi. Please ask Baba to reconsider. I'll marry someone else. Someone younger. Someone. Your father has already accepted the mahr. 50 million rials, Amira. 50 million. The contract is signed. This is finished. This is done. 50 million rials. About 13 million US dollars. That's what I was worth. That's what my father had sold me for. I felt something hot and bitter rise in my throat. So I'm just property? Just something to be bought and sold? My mother's face went cold. You are a woman. This is your purpose. This is what Allah created you for, to be a wife, to bear children, to serve your husband and through him, serve God. Your feelings don't matter. Your desires don't matter. Only your obedience matters. She grabbed my face, her fingers digging into my cheeks. Listen to me very carefully, Amira. You will marry Sheikh Ibrahim. You will smile. You will be grateful. And you will never, never speak of this again. Because if you refuse, if you embarrass this family, if you bring shame to your father's name. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I knew what happened to disobedient daughters. I'd heard the stories whispered among my cousins. The girl who refused to marry, sent to a psychiatric hospital and drugged into compliance. The girl who tried to run away, brought back and never seen in public again. The girl who converted to Christianity. Well, no one knew what happened to her. But we all knew she was dead. Honor killings weren't legal, technically. But they happened. Everyone knew they happened. And everyone knew the authorities looked the other way when they did. My mother released my face and smoothed her hijab. Now, let's talk about your wedding dress. I was thinking white and gold, very traditional, very elegant. She kept talking, but I couldn't hear her anymore. All I could hear was the sound of a cage door slamming shut. All I could feel was the walls closing in. That night, I did what I always did when the world became unbearable. I performed my Isha prayer, the final prayer of the day, with perfect precision. I stood on my prayer rug, raised my hands to my ears, recited the words I'd memorized as a child. Allahu Akbar. God is the greatest. I bowed. I prostrated. I pressed my forehead to the ground and whispered the praises I'd been taught to whisper. Subhana Rabbiul A'la. Glory be to my Lord, the Most High. But inside, I was screaming. Why won't you answer me? Why won't you help me? I've done everything you asked. I've obeyed every rule. I've worn the hijab and fasted and prayed and memorized your words. What more do you want from me? Silence. I prostrated again, tears soaking into the prayer rug. Please. Please. If you're there, if you can hear me, show me a way out. Send me a sign. Anything. Just, please don't abandon me. Nothing. I finished the prayer mechanically, wiped my tears, and sat in the darkness of my room. The call to prayer from our private mosque had ended hours ago. The palace was quiet. Everyone was asleep. Everyone except me and my terror. I grabbed my phone, the one my mother monitored constantly, and opened the browser. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. I didn't even know what I was searching for. Help? Escape? Hope? The search results were useless. Articles about marriage in Islam. Fat was about wifely obedience. Videos of imams explaining why a woman's purpose was to serve her husband. I was about to close the browser when I saw it. A small link at the bottom of the page, probably triggered by some algorithm that noticed my desperation. Testimonies of Saudi women who found freedom. I should have closed it. I should have deleted my search history and gone to bed and accepted my fate like a good Muslim girl. But I didn't. I clicked the link. And everything changed. The website was simple. Clean. Dangerous. It was a collection of video testimonies from women across the Middle East. Women who had left Islam. Women who had found something else. Something they claimed was true. Something they said had set them free. I should have been disgusted. I should have been horrified. These were apostates. Murtad. According to everything I'd been taught, they deserved death. They had abandoned the true faith for lies. They were going to burn in hell forever. But as I sat there in the darkness, with my wedding to Sheikh Ibrahim 6 weeks away and my prayers to Allah unanswered and my heart screaming for help that never came, I clicked on the first video. A woman appeared on the screen. She was my age, maybe younger. Saudi, based on her accent. Her face was blurred for protection, her voice disguised. But her words. My name doesn't matter, she said. What matters is what happened to me. I was like you, trapped, desperate, praying to a God who never answered. I performed every ritual perfectly. I obeyed every rule. And I felt nothing. No peace. No love. No presence. Just emptiness. I leaned closer to the screen, my heart pounding. Then I found a book, she continued. A book I'd been taught to hate. A book about a man named Jesus Isa al-Masih, who claimed to be more than a prophet. And when I read it, when I actually read his words instead of just believing what the imams told me about him. She paused, and even through the voice distortion, I could hear her emotion. He answered me. For the first time in my life, I prayed and someone actually answered. Not with silence. Not with more rules. With love. With presence. With truth that made sense of everything I'd been feeling. My hands were shaking so violently I almost dropped the phone. If you're watching this, the woman said, looking directly into the camera, directly at me, it felt like, and you feel like you're drowning, try calling out to Jesus. Just once. Just to see. What do you have to lose? Everything, I thought. I could lose everything. But I'd already lost everything, hadn't I? My freedom. My future. My hope. My soul. What was left to lose? I looked around my bedroom, at the luxury, at the gold fixtures, at the designer clothes in my 18 closets, and I felt like I was looking at a tomb. beautiful, expensive, dead. And I made a decision that would either save me or destroy me. I was going to find that book. The Bible. The angel. The thing they told me never to read, never to touch, never to even think about. I was going to find it, and I was going to see if this Jesus, this Isa, was real. Because if he wasn't, I'd marry Sheikh Ibrahim in 6 weeks and die slowly for the rest of my life. But if he was real, then maybe I still had a chance. For 3 days, I became a perfect Muslim daughter. I prayed at exactly the right times. I smiled when my mother showed me fabric samples for the wedding. I nodded obediently when my father's sisters visited to congratulate me and offer advice about keeping a husband happy. I performed every ritual with flawless precision. And inside, I was planning my rebellion. The problem was simple. How does a Saudi princess get her hands on a Bible? You have to understand, in my world, Bibles were contraband. More illegal than drugs, more dangerous than weapons. If the religious police found one in your possession, you could be arrested, interrogated, imprisoned, or worse. The kingdom tolerated Christian foreign workers, but they had to worship in complete secrecy, in hidden rooms, never speaking about their faith in public. And me? I'd never even met a Christian, as far as I knew. Everyone in my life was Muslim. Every servant, every driver, every guard. Every single person around me would report me immediately if I started asking about Christianity. So I did what desperate people do. I turned to the internet. But even that was dangerous. Saudi Arabia monitored internet activity. Certain websites were blocked. My mother checked my phone constantly. If she saw anything suspicious in my search history, she'd tell my father, and then. I didn't want to think about and then. So I waited. I planned. And I performed perfectly. On the 4th day after Sheikh Ibrahim's visit, I made my move. Ummi, I need to go to the mall, I said casually over breakfast. I want to buy perfume for the wedding. The good stuff from Paris. And maybe some new makeup. My mother looked up from her phone, immediately interested. She loved shopping almost as much as she loved controlling me. Of course. I'll come with you. We can make a day of it. Actually, I interrupted carefully. I was hoping to go with just Layla. You know, cousin time. She's been asking to spend time together before the wedding, and I lowered my eyes, playing the modest card. I won't have much freedom to see my friends once I'm married. It was the perfect manipulation. Reminding her that I was about to be handed over to another man. Reminding her that my freedom had an expiration date. Making her feel just guilty enough to say yes. She hesitated, then nodded. Fine. But take Abdullah with you. Abdullah was our driver, 60 years old and completely loyal to my father. And be back before ASR prayer. And Amira, her eyes narrowed, I'll be checking the credit card statement. Only appropriate purchases. Understood? Yes, Ummi. 2 hours later, I was in the back of our Mercedes, wearing my most expensive abaya and my most modest hijab, heading toward the mall with a plan that could get me killed. Layla met me at the entrance of Kingdom Center, Riyadh's massive luxury shopping mall. She was my favorite cousin, 24, engaged to a man she actually loved, one of the few people in my life who ever asked me how I actually felt about things. Amira. She hugged me tightly, then pulled back and searched my face. You look terrible. Are you sleeping? Not really, I admitted. It's the wedding, isn't it? Sheikh Ibrahim, she made a face. I'm sorry. That's not fair. You should have been able to choose. I wanted to cry right there in the middle of the mall's marble entryway, surrounded by Gucci and Prada and women in designer abayas. But I couldn't. Not yet. Layla, I need your help with something. Anything. I need to use your phone. Just for a few minutes. And I need you not to ask questions. She stared at me. Amira, what? Please. I'll explain later. I promise. Just, please. Something in my voice must have convinced her. She pulled her phone from her purse and handed it to me. Bathroom. 3rd floor. I'll keep watch. We went upstairs, and I locked myself in a stall while Layla stood guard outside. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. I searched, how to get a Bible in Saudi Arabia. The results were terrifying. Stories of people arrested. Warnings from Christian organizations about the dangers of proselytizing in the kingdom. Forum posts from expatriate workers discussing secret churches and hidden worship services. Then I found it. A website, encrypted, careful, with instructions for people in restricted countries who wanted to read the Bible. There was a phone number. An app. A way to download the text directly to a device without leaving obvious traces in your browser history. I memorized the number. Deleted the search history. Cleared the cache. Returned Layla's phone. Thank you, I whispered when I came out of the bathroom. She looked at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Are you in trouble? I don't know yet. Maybe. Amira. I can't explain right now. But if anything happens to me in the next few weeks, if I disappear, or if my father says I'm sick, or I grabbed her hands. Promise me you'll remember I wasn't crazy. Promise me you'll remember I was trying to find the truth. You're scaring me. I'm scared too. We shopped for an hour, perfume, makeup, things I didn't need and didn't want. I bought them anyway, playing my role. The happy bride. The obedient daughter. The perfect princess. And all the while, that phone number burned in my mind like a brand. That night, after Isha prayer, after my parents had gone to bed, after the palace had settled into its usual heavy silence, I made the most dangerous decision of my life. I called the number. It rang 4 times. 5. I was about to hang up when someone answered. Hello? A man's voice, speaking Arabic with a Lebanese accent. Calm. Careful. My voice cracked. I was violating everything I'd been taught. Every rule. Every law. Every principle. I'm looking for. I couldn't say it. The word stuck in my throat like poison. It's okay, the man said gently. You're safe. Whatever you need, you're safe. Are you in Saudi Arabia? Yes. Are you alone right now? Is anyone listening? No. Yes. I mean, I'm alone. Good. That's good. A pause. You're looking for something to read, aren't you? Tears spilled down my cheeks. Yes. I understand. I can help you. But you need to understand the risks. If anyone finds out. I know the risks, I whispered. I don't care anymore. I need to know if he's real. If there's anything real. Another pause. Longer this time. What's your name? I can't tell you that. Okay. That's smart. Listen carefully. I'm going to give you instructions for downloading an app. It's disguised as a Quran study app, so if anyone sees it on your phone, it won't raise suspicion. But inside, you'll find what you're looking for. Can you do that? Yes. He walked me through it step by step. The download. The password. How to access the hidden content. How to delete any trace if I needed to. When you read it, he said finally, don't try to understand everything at once. Just start with the book called John. Read what Jesus says about himself. And then, his voice softened. Then talk to him. Like he's right there with you. Because he is. How do you know? Because I was where you were once. Lost. Desperate. And he found me. He'll find you too. The call ended. I stared at my phone, at the innocent-looking app now installed among my Quran apps and prayer time trackers. My hands were still shaking. I opened the app. Typed in the password. And there it was. The Holy Bible. Just seeing the words on my screen felt like treason. Like spiritual suicide. Every imam I'd ever heard flashed through my mind, warning about the corrupted scriptures, the false teachings, the lies of the Christians. But I thought about Sheikh Ibrahim. About my mother's cold pragmatism. About my father's empty eyes. About a lifetime of prayers that echoed into nothing. And I started reading. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The opening of the Gospel of John hit me like cold water. I'd expected. I don't know. Corruption. Obvious lies. Things that would immediately confirm what I'd been taught. Instead, I found poetry. Mystery. Something that felt ancient and true and terrifying. I kept reading, hunched over my phone in the darkness, barely breathing. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Light and darkness. I understood that. I'd been living in darkness my entire life, hadn't I? Then I got to chapter 3. A conversation between Jesus and a religious leader named Nicodemus. And I found the verses that would haunt me for days. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. I read it again. And again. And again. God so loved the world. Not God so judged the world. Not God so tested the world. Not God so demanded submission from the world. Loved. I'd never heard that before. Not like this. In Islam, Allah was merciful, compassionate, the names were recited constantly. Al-Rahman. Al-Rahim. The most merciful, the most compassionate. But love? Personal love? The kind of love that would send his Son to save rather than condemn? That was new. That was different. That was impossible? I kept reading, night after night, while the wedding preparations continued around me. While my mother scheduled appointments with the dressmaker and the caterer and the henna artist. While my father discussed the marriage contract with Sheikh Ibrahim's representatives. While my world spun toward a future that felt like death. And the more I read, the more confused I became. Because Jesus wasn't saying what I'd been taught he said. The imams had always told us that Isa was just a prophet, that he never claimed to be God, that Christians had corrupted his message and turned him into something he never was. But here, in his own words, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I and the Father are one. Before Abraham was born, I am. These weren't the words of a prophet. These were the words of someone claiming to actually be God. Which meant either Jesus was telling the truth, or he was a liar. Or insane. But if he was a liar or crazy, why would billions of people follow him for 2,000 years? Why would people die for him? Why would that woman in the video risk everything to follow him? For weeks before the wedding, I broke. It was after far prayer, the dawn prayer, and I just finished my recitation. Perfect posture. Perfect words. Perfect emptiness. I stayed on my prayer rug, and I did something I'd never done before. I prayed off script. Allah, I whispered in the gray morning light, I need you to answer me. Please. I've read your book. I've followed your rules. I've obeyed everything. But I don't feel you. I don't know you. And now I'm reading about Isa, about Jesus, and he's saying things that don't make sense. Things that contradict what I've been taught. My voice broke. So I need you to tell me the truth. If Jesus is a liar, show me. If the Bible is corrupted, show me where. If Islam is the truth, make me feel it. Make me know it. Because I can't live like this anymore. I can't marry Sheikh Ibrahim without knowing for sure that I'm doing the right thing. I waited. And waited. And waited. The call to prayer from our mosque had ended. The sun was rising over Riyadh. The palace was waking up around me. And I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was like praying to the ceiling. Like talking to myself. Like screaming into a void that didn't care and couldn't hear and would never, ever answer. I stood up, folded my prayer rug, and walked to my window. Below, the gardens were being watered by the morning staff. Roses and fountains and 47 acres of manufactured paradise. And I realized something that terrified me more than Sheikh Ibrahim, more than my father's anger, more than death itself. I realized that I didn't believe anymore. Not in Allah. Not in Islam. Not in any of it. 22 years of faith had evaporated like water in the desert. And in its place was just questions. Doubt. And a dangerous, terrifying curiosity about a man named Jesus who claimed he could give me something I'd never had. Life. Real life. Eternal life. I have come that they may have life, and have it to the full. That's what he'd said. In the Gospel of John. And I wanted it. God help me, I wanted it so badly I could taste it. But wanting it and having it were two different things. And I had no idea how to cross that bridge. 3 weeks before the wedding, my mother caught me crying during their prayer. What's wrong? She demanded, pulling me up from the prayer rug. Are you sick? I'm fine. You're not fine. You've barely eaten in days. You look exhausted. Is it the wedding? Are you nervous? Nervous. Such a small, inadequate word for what I was feeling. Ummi, I said quietly, desperately, do you ever feel Allah when you pray? She blinked, confused. What? When you pray. When you prostrate. When you recite the Quran. Do you feel anything? Do you feel him there with you? She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Amira, that's not how faith works. Faith isn't about feelings. It's about obedience. You pray because it's required. You obey because it's commanded. Feelings have nothing to do with it. But what if I need more than that? My voice was rising, getting dangerous. What if I need to know that someone is listening? That someone cares? That there's a point to all of this? The point, my mother said coldly, is to avoid hell and reach paradise. That's the only point. Now stop asking stupid questions and finish your prayer. She left. And I stood there, alone in my room, realizing that I'd just described the difference between Islam and what I'd been reading in the Bible. Islam was about obedience. Rules. submission. Do this, don't do that, and maybe you'll be good enough for paradise. But Jesus talked about relationship, about knowing God personally, about love instead of fear, about grace instead of endless striving. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. I was so weary, so burdened, and Allah had never offered me rest. Only more rules, more obligations, more fear. That night, I did something absolutely insane. I locked my bedroom door. I turned off all the lights. I sat on the floor in the darkness. And I prayed to Jesus. I don't know if you're real, I whispered into the darkness. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if this is the biggest mistake of my life or the only true thing I've ever done. But I need you to show me. I need to know. Because if you're not real, then I'm about to marry a man I don't love and live a life I can't bear and die without ever knowing what truth feels like. My voice cracked. But if you are real, if you really are who you say you are, then please, show me. Give me a sign. Help me believe. I waited in the darkness. Nothing happened. No vision. No voice. No supernatural experience like the woman in the video had described. Just silence. And my own heartbeat. And the crushing weight of disappointment. I went to bed that night feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my entire life. I'd prayed to Allah, nothing. I'd prayed to Jesus, nothing. Maybe there was no God at all. Maybe the universe was empty and cold and I was just a girl trapped in a cage with no way out. Maybe. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that everything was about to change. Because Jesus had heard me. And he was already on his way. The answer came from the most unexpected place. 2.5 weeks before my wedding, my mother sent me on an errand that would change everything. She needed me to go to my grandmother's old house, my father's mother, who had died 6 months earlier, to retrieve some antique jewelry for the wedding ceremony. Family heirlooms. Diamonds and emeralds that had been passed down for generations. Take Fatima with you, my mother said, referring to one of our housekeepers. The house is being sold next month, so this is your last chance. Get the jewelry box from her bedroom closet. You remember where it is? I remembered. I'd spent summers in that house as a child, back when my grandmother was still alive and sharp and occasionally kind to me in ways my own parents never were. The house was in an older neighborhood of Riyadh, still wealthy but not ostentatious like our palace. Traditional. Quiet. The kind of place where the walls held secrets. Fatima and I arrived in the late afternoon. The house had been locked up for months, and when we opened the door, the air smelled like dust and memory and things left behind. I'll wait in the car, Fatima said, already pulling out her phone. She hated old houses. Said they gave her bad feelings. I didn't argue. I wanted to be alone. I walked through my grandmother's house slowly, remembering. The sitting room where she used to serve us tea. The kitchen where she taught me to make kunafa, one of the few times anyone had bothered to teach me anything useful. The prayer room where she'd spent hours reading the Quran, her voice soft and melodic. Had she felt Allah when she prayed? Or had she, like my mother, just gone through the motions because that's what you did? I'd never know now. I climbed the stairs to her bedroom, my footsteps echoing in the empty house. The furniture was still there, covered in white sheets like ghosts. The jewelry box was exactly where my mother had said it would be, in the closet, on the top shelf, hidden behind old shoeboxes and stacks of folded scarves. I pulled it down, checked to make sure the jewelry was inside. It was. Stunning pieces that I'd wear on my wedding day while feeling absolutely nothing. I was about to leave when something else on the shelf caught my eye. A book. Leather-bound. Old. Tucked behind the shoeboxes where you'd only find it if you were looking for something else. Curious, I pulled it out. The cover was plain. No title. No markings. Just brown leather, worn soft with age and use. I opened it. And my heart stopped. It was a Bible. Not just any Bible, an Arabic Bible. Someone had handwritten notes in the margins. Verses were underlined. Pages were dog-eared. This wasn't some contraband someone had hidden and forgotten. This was someone's treasure. My grandmother's treasure. My hand started shaking so badly I almost dropped it. This couldn't be real. My grandmother, the woman who had prayed 5 times a day, who had made the Hajj to Mecca 3 times, who had memorized huge portions of the Quran, had owned a Bible? Had read a Bible? Had studied a Bible? I flipped to the front page, and there, in handwriting I recognized immediately, was an inscription. To Noor, who seeks truth even when truth is dangerous. May you find what you're looking for. May he find you. Father Michael, 1978-inch. Noor. That was my grandmother's name. Light. That was 47 years ago. Long before I was born. Before my father was even married. Who was Father Michael? When had my grandmother met a Christian priest? And why had she kept this book for nearly 5 decades? I sat down on my grandmother's bed, jewelry box forgotten, and started reading her notes. Her handwriting was small and neat, cramped into the margins as if she was trying to hide her thoughts even from herself. Next to Psalm 23, she'd written, "The Lord is my shepherd." Is this true? Can God be personal like this? Allah is great, but is he also near? Next to John 14 verse 6, where Jesus says, "I am the way and the truth and the life," she'd written, "If this is true, everything I've been taught is wrong. But it feels true. Why does it feel true?" And next to John 3 verse 16, "For God so loved the world," she'd written something that made me start crying. I have never heard that God loves me. Only that he judges. Only that I must submit. But this says he loves me. How can this be? She'd asked the same questions I was asking. She'd felt the same emptiness I was feeling. She'd searched for the same truth I was searching for. And she'd found something. I could tell from the notes. As the book progressed, her handwriting became more confident. More certain. Next to Romans 8 verses 38 to 39, she'd written, "Nothing can separate me from his love. Nothing. Not death, not life, not angels, not demons, not my past, not my family, not even my fear. This is what I've been searching for my entire life." I turned to the Gospels, reading passages she'd marked heavily. Matthew. Mark. Luke. John. The stories of Jesus, healing the sick, forgiving sinners, challenging the religious authorities, dying on a cross, rising from the dead. And everywhere, her notes. He touched the lepers. The unclean. The outcasts. He loved them. He said the religious leaders were hypocrites. He cared more about mercy than rules. He forgave the woman caught in adultery. Didn't stone her. Just loved her and told her to sin no more. He died for me. He died for me. Not because I deserved it. Because he loved me. I was sobbing now, barely able to read through my tears. My grandmother had been a secret Christian. For 47 years, she'd hidden her faith, performed Islamic prayers, played the role of a devout Muslim woman, all while secretly believing in Jesus. How had she done it? How had she lived that double life for so long? And why had she never told me? Then I found the last entry, written on the inside back cover, dated just 3 months before she died. I am old now. Tired. Soon I will see if what I believe is true. I have lived my whole life in hiding, afraid to tell my family, afraid of being killed for apostasy. I pray that someday one of my grandchildren will find this book, will read these words, will understand that there is more than what we've been taught. I pray especially for Amira, bright, questioning Amira, who asks the questions no one else dares to ask. If you're reading this, Hayati, know that you're not alone. Know that your questions are not sin. Know that truth exists, and his name is Jesus. Seek him. He will find you. I promise. Your grandmother, Noor. I clutched the Bible to my chest and wept. She'd known. Somehow, she'd known I would need this. She'd left it for me like a treasure map, like a lifeline thrown across the years from her hands to mine. I don't know how long I sat there crying. It could have been minutes or hours. Time felt strange, suspended, like the room itself was holding its breath. Finally, I heard Fatima calling from downstairs. Amira. Did you find the jewelry? We need to go. I wiped my face quickly, shoved the Bible into my purse, it barely fit, grabbed the jewelry box, and stood up. My legs felt weak. My heart was pounding. I'd just stolen a Bible from my dead grandmother's closet. If anyone found it. Don't think about that now. Just move. Coming. I called, trying to keep my voice steady. I walked downstairs, locked up the house, got into the car. Fatima was scrolling through her phone, barely looking at me. You were up there forever. Find everything? Yes. There was a lot to look through. She nodded, disinterested, and told the driver to take us home. The entire drive back, I sat with my purse clutched against my stomach, feeling the weight of the Bible inside like it was made of lead. Or gold. Or both. Every time we passed a police checkpoint, my heart stopped. Every time the driver glanced in the rearview mirror, I thought he somehow knew. Every time my phone buzzed with a text from my mother, I was sure I'd been caught. But we made it home. I brought the jewelry to my mother. She was delighted, didn't ask any questions about why I'd taken so long, and I went straight to my room. Locked the door. Drew the curtains. Turned on worship music from my phone to cover any sounds. And then I pulled out the Bible. I read for hours. Compulsively. Desperately. Like a starving person finally given food. I started where my grandmother's notes were heaviest, the Gospel of John. The same book I'd been reading on my phone, but somehow holding it in my hands, seeing her handwriting, knowing she'd walked this path before me, it felt different. More real. More possible. I read about Jesus and Nicodemus. About Jesus and the Samaritan woman at the well, an outcast, a woman with a shameful past, and Jesus spoke to her. Spoke to her. Offered her living water. Told her secrets about herself. Didn't condemn her. Just loved her. I read about Jesus and the woman caught in adultery. The religious leaders wanted to stone her. It was the law, after all, but Jesus bent down and wrote in the sand. Then he said, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." One by one, they dropped their stones and walked away. And Jesus told the woman, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." No condemnation. Just love and a call to freedom. I thought about Sheikh Ibrahim. About the imams I'd heard my whole life, ranting about hell and punishment and the wickedness of women. About the religious police who patrolled the streets looking for violations to punish. Jesus wasn't like them at all. He was something else entirely. I kept reading. The crucifixion. The resurrection. The appearances to his disciples. Thomas, who doubted until he saw the scars. Jesus, who let him touch the wounds and said, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." My grandmother had written next to that verse, "I haven't seen him, but I believe." And somehow, that's enough. Could it be enough for me too? That night, after Isha prayer, going through the motions, the empty rituals, I did something I'd been too afraid to do before. I knelt beside my bed with my grandmother's Bible open in front of me. And I prayed. Not to all of this time. Not to the silent ceiling. But to Jesus. Directly. Personally. Jesus, I whispered, feeling strange saying his name like that, like we were on familiar terms. I don't know how this works. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't even know if I really believe yet. But my grandmother believed. And she was smart. She was careful. She wouldn't have risked everything for a lie. I touched the pages of her Bible, the worn edges, the underlined verses. She said you would find me if I sought you. So, I'm seeking. I'm here. I'm desperate. I'm 2 weeks away from a marriage that will destroy me, and I have nowhere else to turn. No one else to ask. Nothing else to believe in. My voice broke. If you're real, if you really are the Son of God, if you really did die for me, if you really can save me, then please. Please. Show me. I need to know. I need a sign. Something I can't deny. Something that proves you're not just words on a page. I waited in the silence of my bedroom, surrounded by luxury and emptiness and the weight of 22 years of unanswered prayers. And this time, something different happened. Not a voice. Not a vision. Not a supernatural manifestation. Just peace. It started in my chest, like warmth spreading through cold water. Then it moved outward, to my shoulders, my hands, my mind. The constant anxiety that had been choking me for weeks started to loosen. The fear didn't disappear completely, but it softened. Like someone had turned down the volume on the screaming in my head. And I know this sounds insane, but I felt presence. Like I wasn't alone in the room. Like someone was there with me, sitting beside me, listening. Actually listening. Not judging. Not demanding. Not threatening. Just loving me. The tears came again, but different this time. Not tears of despair or frustration. Tears of something I'd never felt before. Something I didn't even have a word for. Relief? Hope? Recognition? Like I'd been searching for home my entire life, and I'd finally found the address. "Is that you?" I whispered into the quiet. "Are you there?" The peace deepened. The presence grew stronger. And somehow, without words, without sounds, without anything I could point to as proof, I knew. He was there. Jesus was there. With me. In my locked bedroom in a Saudi palace. Despite the Islamic prayers echoing from the mosque. Despite the Quran verses painted on the walls. Despite every law and tradition and threat that said he shouldn't be. He was there anyway. Because he'd promised. Seek and you will find. And I'd sought. And he'd kept his word. I stayed kneeling beside my bed until my legs went numb. Reading. Praying. Feeling that impossible peace wrap around me like arms I couldn't see. I read Jesus' words in John 10, "I am the good shepherd." The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. I have come that they may have life, and have it to the full. Full life. Real life. Not the empty performance I'd been living. Not the slow death that awaited me in Sheikh Ibrahim's house. But abundant life. Life that meant something. Life that was worth living. I read John 14, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." The world had given me nothing but trouble and fear. But Jesus was offering something different. Something the world couldn't give and couldn't take away. I read 1 John 4, "There is no fear in love. But perfect love drives out fear." All my life, I've been motivated by fear. Fear of hell. Fear of punishment. Fear of shame. Fear of my Father. Fear of being not good enough, not obedient enough, not perfect enough. But perfect love drives out fear. And Jesus loved me perfectly. Completely. Unconditionally. Not because I'd earned it. Not because I'd performed correctly. Not because I'd followed enough rules. Just because. Because he made me. Because he knew me. Because he died for me 2,000 years ago, knowing I would be sitting here in this room on this night, desperate and afraid and searching. He'd always known. And he'd come anyway. When I finally stood up, my legs were cramping and the call to prayer for far was starting. Dawn. The palace would be waking up soon. I had my grandmother's Bible under my mattress, not a great hiding place, but the best I had, and I prepared for morning prayer with my family. But this time, as I knelt on my prayer rug and pressed my forehead to the ground and recited the words I'd memorized as a child, something was different. I wasn't praying to Allah anymore. In my heart, in the secret place where no one could see, I was talking to Jesus. Thank you. Thank you for answering. Thank you for being real. Thank you for finding me. I don't know what happens next. I don't know how to get out of this marriage. I don't know how to leave my family. I don't know how to survive what's coming. But you know. And you're with me. And somehow that's enough. I finished the prayer. I stood up. I looked at my mother and father eating breakfast in the dining room, discussing wedding details, planning my future like I was a chess piece they were moving around a board. They had no idea that everything had just changed. I'd found what I was looking for. And he'd found me. Now I just had to figure out how to follow him without getting killed. For the next 10 days, I lived 2 lives. On the outside, I was the perfect bride. I smiled at dress fittings. I nodded when the wedding planner showed me flower arrangements. I sat quietly while Sheikh Ibrahim's first 2 wives came to meet me, to inspect me, really, to make sure I knew my place in their hierarchy. I was going to be the youngest. The newest. The lowest. They didn't know I didn't care anymore. Because I wasn't going to marry him. I didn't know how I was going to escape. I just knew that I would. Because Jesus had found me, and somehow, impossibly, that changed everything. On the inside, I was being transformed. Every night, after the palace went silent, I would pull my grandmother's Bible from its hiding place and read by the dim light of my phone. I devoured the Gospels. Then the letters of Paul. Then the Psalms, David's raw, honest prayers that sounded like my own desperate cries. And every night, I felt him there. Jesus. Present. Real. Close enough to touch if I just had eyes to see him. I started talking to him constantly. Not formal prayers like I'd done my whole life. Just talking. Like he was my friend. My confidant. The only person in the world who actually understood. Jesus, my mother scheduled a henna party for next week. I don't know what to do. Jesus, Sheikh Ibrahim called today. He wants to visit again. I feel sick. Jesus, I'm so scared. What if I can't escape? What if this is it? And somehow, in the quiet of my heart, I'd feel his response. Not in words. Not in audible voice. Just peace. Certainty. The sense that he was saying, trust me. I've got you. Wait. So I waited. And I prepared. I researched escape routes for women fleeing Saudi Arabia. I found organizations that helped female refugees. I memorized emergency numbers. I looked up countries that granted asylum to apostates from Islam. Turkey. The Philippines. Some countries in Europe, if you could get there. It all seemed impossible. I had no passport, my father controlled that. I had money, but every transaction was monitored. I couldn't travel without a male guardian's permission. The airport had facial recognition systems. The religious police were everywhere. I was trapped in a cage made of gold and surveillance and religious law. But I kept praying. And I kept feeling that impossible peace. And I kept waiting for Jesus to show me what to do. The answer came exactly 1 week before my wedding. And it came in a dream. I went to bed that night exhausted. My mother had dragged me through 9 hours of wedding preparations. The dress. The jewelry. The guest list. 600 people were invited. It was going to be one of the social events of the season. I fell asleep praying. Jesus, I need you. I need a miracle. I need you to show me the way out because I can't see it. I can't do this alone. And then I dreamed. In the dream, I was standing in the courtyard of our palace. But it wasn't our courtyard anymore. The marble fountains were gone. The rose gardens had disappeared. Instead, there was just sand. Desert sand, stretching endlessly in every direction. And I was alone. I looked down and realized I was dressed in my wedding gown. The white and gold abaya my mother had ordered. The one that cost more than most people earn in a year. It was beautiful and suffocating and I wanted to rip it off, but I couldn't move my arms. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, and Sheikh Ibrahim was there. But he didn't look human anymore. His eyes were black, completely black, no whites, and his mouth was twisted into something that might have been a smile but looked more like a wound. He reached for me with hands that had too many fingers, and when he spoke, his voice was like grinding metal. You belong to me now. Your father sold you. Allah approved it. You have no escape. I tried to run, but my feet were buried in the sand. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to pray, Allah, help me, but the words died in my throat because I didn't believe them anymore. Sheikh Ibrahim's hand touched my shoulder, and it burned like ice. Like death. Like the end of everything. And then I heard a different voice. Amira. It came from behind me. From somewhere in the endless desert. And it was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Warm. Strong. Gentle and fierce at the same time. I turned, suddenly I could move again, and I saw him. Jesus. He was standing about 20 feet away, and he was. I don't even have words. The dreams I'd had my whole life, the artistic depictions I'd secretly looked at online, none of them came close. He was Middle Eastern. Dark hair. Dark eyes that looked almost black but not empty like Sheikh Ibrahim's, full. Full of light and life and knowledge and love so intense it should have been terrifying but somehow wasn't. He was wearing simple clothes. White robe. Nothing fancy. But there was light coming from him. Not like a spotlight. More like he was made of light that had chosen to wear skin. And when he looked at me, I felt seen. Completely seen. Every sin, every doubt, every secret thing I'd ever done or thought or felt, he saw all of it. And he didn't look away in disgust. He smiled. "Come here," he said, and his voice was the same voice I'd been feeling in my heart every night. The presence I'd sensed in my room. The peace that had been sustaining me. It was him. It had always been him. I tried to walk toward him, but Sheikh Ibrahim grabbed my arm. His fingers dug into my flesh like claws. "She's mine," he snarled. "The contract is signed. Allah has decreed it." Jesus' expression didn't change. He kept looking at me, ignoring Sheikh Ibrahim completely. "Amira, who do you choose? Your father's plan? Or my plan? Death? Or life?" "I choose you," I whispered, and saying it felt like breaking chains I didn't know I was wearing. "I choose you, Jesus. I choose life." "Then come. Walk away from him. He has no power over you unless you give it to him." "But my feet, I'm stuck." "You're not stuck. You're afraid. There's a difference. Walk." I looked down. The sand that had been burying my feet was gone. I was standing on solid ground. I'd been free the whole time. I just hadn't realized it. Sheikh Ibrahim's grip tightened. "If you walk away, your family will kill you. The kingdom will hunt you. You'll lose everything." "She'll gain everything," Jesus said quietly. And then he looked directly at Sheikh Ibrahim for the first time. "Let her go." His voice didn't get louder. He didn't shout. But the authority in those 3 words, it was like thunder, like an earthquake, like the voice that had spoken the universe into existence was now speaking into my dream. Sheikh Ibrahim screamed, an inhuman sound, and his hand released my arm. He staggered backward, and then he just dissolved. Like smoke. Like he'd never been real at all. I stood there, trembling, staring at the place where he'd been. "He was never as powerful as you thought," Jesus said. "Fear makes monsters look bigger than they are." Then he held out his hand. "Come here, daughter. I want to show you something." I walked toward him. It felt like the longest and shortest walk of my life. And when I got close enough, I saw his hands. Scars. In his palms. In his wrists. Healed but visible. Proof of what he'd done. Proof of what he paid. "You did that for me?" I whispered. "I did that for you. I'd do it again. I'd do it 1,000,000 times if that's what it took to bring you home." Tears were streaming down my face. "I don't deserve. No one deserves it. That's what makes it grace." He touched my cheek, and his hand was warm and solid and real. More real than anything I'd ever felt. "Amira, listen carefully. You're going to wake up soon. And when you do, things are going to move very quickly. Your father is going to do something terrible. Sheikh Ibrahim is going to reveal who he really is. And you're going to have to make a choice." "What choice?" "Whether to stay silent and die slowly, or speak truth and live, even if it costs you everything." My heart was pounding. "I'm scared. I know. But I'll be with you. I've been with you since before you were born. I'll be with you in prison if they imprison you. I'll be with you in death if they kill you. And I'll be with you in life if you run. There is nowhere you can go that I'm not already there. What do I do? Tell me what to do." He smiled again, and it was like the sun rising. You'll know. When the moment comes, you'll know. And you won't be alone. I promise. The dream started to fade. The desert, Jesus' face, the warmth of his presence, all of it began to blur and dissolve like watercolors running together. Wait. I reached for him, desperate. Don't go, I need you. I'm not going anywhere, his voice echoed as the dream fell away. I'm right here. I'm always right here. Remember that. No matter what happens. Remember. I woke up gasping. It was still dark. The call to prayer for far hadn't started yet. I checked my phone, 4:17 a.m. My heart was racing. My face was wet with tears. And my arm, the arm Sheikh Ibrahim had grabbed in the dream, was throbbing like I'd actually been grabbed. I turned on my bedside lamp and looked. There were marks on my arm. Not bruises. Not injuries. But faint marks, like someone had drawn on my skin with invisible ink that was slowly becoming visible in the light. And they were in the shape of a cross. A small cross. Right where Sheikh Ibrahim's hand had been. Right where Jesus had set me free. I stared at it, my mind reeling. This wasn't possible. Dreams didn't leave physical marks. Visions didn't create evidence in the real world. But there it was. On my skin. Undeniable. Jesus had been there. Really there. Not just in my imagination. Not just in my desperate, hopeful mind. He'd been there, and he'd marked me as his own. I started laughing. Quiet, hysterical laughter that turned into sobs. Relief and terror and joy and fear all mixed together until I couldn't tell the difference. He was real. He was real. And he'd promised to be with me no matter what happened. I pressed my hand over the cross on my arm and prayed. Okay. Okay, Jesus. I don't know what's coming. But you said you'd be with me. So. I trust you. I'm yours. Whatever happens, I'm yours. The peace came again. Stronger than ever. Like armor settling over my shoulders. Like a shield I couldn't see but could definitely feel. And I knew, the way you know things in your bones, in your blood, in the core of your being, that everything was about to change. Jesus had said my father was going to do something terrible. That Sheikh Ibrahim would reveal his true nature. That I'd have to choose. I didn't have to wait long. The knock on my door came at 7:30 a.m., right after far prayer. Amira. My father's voice. Cold. Flat. Dangerous. Come downstairs. Now. My stomach dropped. He never came to my room. Never summoned me like this. Something was wrong. I quickly pulled on my abaya, making sure it covered the cross-shaped mark on my arm. Then I opened the door. My father stood there, and his face was like stone. Your mother found something while cleaning your room yesterday. Something very disturbing. No. No, 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 no. Baba, I don't know what. Don't lie to me. His voice was quiet. Deadly. Come downstairs. We're going to discuss this as a family. He turned and walked away, and I had no choice but to follow. The walk down the spiral staircase felt like walking to my execution. My hands were shaking. My mind was racing. What had my mother found? The Bible? The app on my phone? Had she somehow seen my search history? When I entered the formal sitting room, I saw my mother sitting on the sofa, her face twisted with disgust and rage. And on the coffee table in front of her, displayed like evidence in a trial, was my grandmother's Bible. They'd found it. I don't know how. Maybe my mother had searched more thoroughly than usual. Maybe a servant had noticed something, but they'd found it. And I was about to pay the price. My father closed the door behind me. The click of the lock was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. "Sit," he commanded. I sat. He picked up the Bible like it was contaminated, holding it with 2 fingers. "Do you know what this is?" "Yes, Baba." "And do you know where your mother found it?" "Yes." "Where did you get it?" I could lie. I could say I found it somewhere. That I was planning to turn it in to the religious police. That I'd never actually read it. But Jesus' words from the dream echoed in my mind: speak truth and live, even if it costs you everything. So I spoke truth. I found it in grandmother's house. It was hers. She was a Christian, Baba. She believed in Jesus. My mother gasped like I'd slapped her. My father's face went completely blank. "What did you say?" His voice was deadly quiet. "Grandmother Noor. She converted to Christianity decades ago. She hid it from all of us. But she believed. She wrote notes in the margins, you can see them. She believed Jesus was the Son of God. She believed he died for her sins. She believed." "Stop." My father's roar was like an explosion. He hurled the Bible across the room. It hit the wall and fell to the floor, pages crumpled. My mother was a righteous Muslim woman. She prayed 5 times a day. She made Hajj. She memorized the Quran. You dare to slander her memory with this filth? "It's not slander if it's true," I said, and I was surprised by how steady my voice was. "Read her notes. Read what she wrote. She was searching for truth, and she found it. She found Jesus. And you?" My mother's voice was shaking with rage. "Did you read this poison? Did you let this corruption into your mind?" I looked at my father. At my mother. At the life I'd lived for 22 years, the golden cage, the empty rituals, the slow death of everything that made me human. And I chose. "Yes," I said clearly. "I read it. I prayed to Jesus. And he answered me. For the first time in my life, I prayed and someone actually answered. He's real, Ami. He's real, and he loves me, and he's shown me what truth looks like. And it's not this." I gestured around the room. "It's not empty prayers and forced marriages and fear. It's him. It's Jesus." The silence that followed was like the moment before a bomb detonates. Then my father moved faster than I'd ever seen him move. He grabbed me by the throat, his fingers crushing my windpipe, and slammed me against the wall. "You blasphemous whore," he hissed, his face inches from mine. "You ungrateful, demon-possessed whore. I should kill you right now. Right here. Strangle you with my own hands and throw your body to the dogs." I couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in my vision. But somehow, I felt no fear. Only that strange, impossible peace. "I'm right here," I felt Jesus whisper in my spirit. "I've got you. Don't be afraid." My father released me, and I collapsed to the floor, gasping. "We have to tell Sheikh Ibrahim," my mother said, her voice high and panicked. "He needs to know. The wedding is in 6 days, we have to tell him what she's done." "Are you insane?" My father whirled on her. "If anyone finds out that my daughter is an apostate, our family will be destroyed. Our reputation, my position, everything we've built." "Then what do we do?" They stared at each other. Then they stared at me, crumpled on the floor, holding my throat, feeling the cross-shaped mark on my arm burning like fire under my sleeve. And I saw the moment my father made his decision. I saw the moment he chose his reputation over his daughter. I saw the moment he became my executioner. "Lock her in her room," he said flatly. "No phone. No computer. No contact with anyone. We'll tell everyone she's sick. Wedding preparations continue as planned. On the wedding day, we'll drug her if we have to. She'll marry Sheikh Ibrahim, and he can deal with her apostasy however he sees fit. If he kills her, it's an honor killing. If he imprisons her, she deserves it. But this family will not be shamed. Is that understood?" My mother nodded, relief flooding her face. Yes. Yes, that's perfect. Sheikh Ibrahim will know what to do. He's dealt with rebellious wives before. Wait. My voice was hoarse from being choked, but I forced the words out. "You're going to hand me over to him knowing he might kill me? I'm your daughter." "You stopped being my daughter the moment you read that filth," my father said coldly. He nodded to my mother. "Take her upstairs. Lock the door. I'll have the windows barred. She doesn't leave that room until the wedding." My mother grabbed my arm and yanked me to my feet. As she dragged me toward the stairs, I looked back at my father one last time. "Jesus loves you too, Baba," I said. "It's not too late. You can still." He slapped me. Hard. Across the face. My head snapped to the side, and I tasted blood. "Get her out of my sight." They locked me in my room like they'd promised. Barred the windows. Took my phone, my laptop, everything. I was left with nothing but my clothes, my furniture, and the cross-shaped mark on my arm that was now fully visible, glowing faintly in the darkness like a brand. I sat on my bed and waited for the fear to come. The panic. The despair. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt him. Jesus. Right there in the room with me. So present I could almost see him sitting in the chair by my window. So real I could almost feel his hand on my shoulder. "I'm right here," I felt him say. "You did well. You spoke truth. Now trust me. The next part is going to be hard. But I've already won this battle. You just have to walk through it." "What's going to happen?" I whispered into the empty room. "A miracle. The kind people will talk about for years. The kind that proves I'm real. Are you ready?" "No. But I'll trust you anyway." I felt him smile. "That's all I need. Your trust. I'll do the rest." And then, even though I was locked in a room in a palace in Saudi Arabia with 6 days until a forced marriage and my family planning to hand me over to a man who would probably kill me for apostasy, I slept. And I dreamed of Jesus standing guard at my door, his scars glowing like stars, his eyes full of love and promise. The countdown to my wedding had begun. But so had the countdown to my miracle. The 6 days I spent locked in that room were the strangest of my life. On one hand, I was a prisoner. My mother brought me meals 3 times a day, slid them through the door without speaking, without looking at me. I could hear her crying sometimes on the other side, but she never tried to help me. My father didn't come at all. It was like I'd already died, and they were just waiting to bury me. The windows were barred from the outside. Heavy metal grates that blocked any chance of escape. I was 3 stories up anyway. Even if I broke the glass, even if I somehow got through the bars, I'd fall to my death on the marble courtyard below. I was trapped. Completely trapped. But on the other hand, I'd never felt more free in my entire life. Because Jesus was there. Constantly. I don't know how to explain it except to say that the room felt full. Like there was a presence occupying the space that was bigger than the walls could contain. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and swear I could see a figure standing by my window, glowing faintly in the darkness. Sometimes I'd be crying and feel arms around me that I couldn't see but could definitely feel. And I'd hear his voice. Not audible, nothing my ears could detect, but clear as day in my spirit. "Read to me," he'd say. And I'd realize my grandmother's Bible was still in my room. My parents had thrown it in after me like it was contaminated. So I'd read aloud. The Psalms. The Gospels. The letters of Paul. And I'd feel him listening. Responding. Teaching me. "Worship me," he'd say. And I'd hum hymns I'd secretly found online weeks ago. Amazing Grace. How great thou art. Songs about his love and sacrifice. And the room would fill with that presence until I could barely breathe from the beauty of it. "Trust me," he'd say when the fear came creeping in. When I'd think about the wedding. About Sheikh Ibrahim's dead eyes. About what might happen to me. And the peace would come flooding back like a tide. I wasn't alone. I was never alone. And somehow, that made everything bearable. On the 5th day, my mother came into the room instead of just passing food through the door. She looked terrible. Eyes red and swollen. Face gaunt. Like she'd aged 10 years in less than a week. "Amira," she said quietly, sitting on the edge of my bed. "Please. Please just recant. Tell your father you were confused. Tell him it was a moment of weakness. Tell him you've repented and you're ready to be a good Muslim bride. He'll forgive you. We can still fix this." I looked at her, this woman who'd raised me, controlled me, crushed every question I'd ever asked, and I felt something unexpected. Pity. "I can't do that, Ummi," I said gently. "Because it wouldn't be true. I'm not confused. I'm not weak. I found the truth, and his name is Jesus. I can't go back to the lie, even if it would make things easier." "You're going to get yourself killed," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Sheikh Ibrahim, when your father told him about your apostasy, do you know what he said?" My stomach twisted. "What did he say?" "He said he's dealt with rebellious women before. He said he knows how to correct a wife who's been influenced by demons. He said the wedding will proceed as planned, and after the marriage is consummated, he'll have the legal right to discipline you as he sees fit." She grabbed my hands, her grip desperate. "Amira, he's going to hurt you. He might kill you. Please. Please just lie. Just say the words. You can believe whatever you want in your heart, but just say you're Muslim and save yourself." "Jesus didn't lie to save himself," I said quietly. "He told the truth even when it cost him his life. How can I do less? He was God. You're just a girl. He was God and a man. Which means he knows exactly what it feels like to be human and afraid and facing death. And he did it anyway. For me. The least I can do is be honest about who he is." My mother stood up abruptly, wiping her tears. "Then you're a fool. And I can't save you." She walked to the door, then paused. "The wedding is tomorrow. Your dress is ready. Sheikh Ibrahim and 600 guests will be at the palace at 7 p.m. Your father has sedatives prepared in case you resist. I suggest you don't. It will be less humiliating for everyone." She left. The lock clicked behind her. And I sat on my bed, trembling, staring at the cross-shaped mark on my arm that had grown brighter over the past 6 days. Like a brand. Like a seal. "Jesus," I whispered into the silence. You said a miracle was coming. I really, really need that miracle. Because I don't see a way out of this. I don't see how this ends with anything except my death. And I felt his response, warm and certain in my chest. Death is not the end. But you're not dying tomorrow. Tomorrow, everyone will see what I can do. Tomorrow, they'll know I'm real. Trust me, daughter. The night is darkest before dawn. But dawn is coming. I closed my eyes and chose to believe him. What other choice did I have? The wedding day arrived. They came for me at 5 p.m. My mother, 2 aunts, and a team of beauticians who'd been hired to make me look perfect for my execution. I didn't fight them. There was no point. I let them bathe me, dress me, paint my face with makeup, weave my hair into intricate braids. I let them put the wedding dress on me, the white and gold abaya that had cost a fortune, the one I'd worn in the dream before Jesus set me free. The whole time, I prayed silently. Jesus, I trust you. I don't understand what you're doing, but I trust you. Please. Please don't abandon me. Stay with me. Whatever happens, stay with me. And I felt him there. Felt his presence like a hand on my shoulder. Like armor I was wearing under my skin. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Watch what I'm about to do. At 6:45 p.m., my father came to get me. He looked at me for a long moment, his face unreadable. You look beautiful, he said finally. Like a real princess. Sheikh Ibrahim is a lucky man. Baba. Don't. His voice was sharp. Don't speak. Don't embarrass me. Don't ruin this. You walk down those stairs, you smile, you say your vows, and you do your duty. If you cause a scene, if you say one word about your delusions, I will personally make sure you regret it. Do you understand? I looked at him, this man who'd given me life and was now handing me over to death, and I felt that same pity I'd felt for my mother. He was so blind. So trapped in his own cage of pride and reputation and fear. And he didn't even know it. I forgive you, Baba, I said quietly. He blinked, confused. What? For everything. For selling me. For choosing your reputation over my life. For never really seeing me. I forgive you. Because that's what Jesus taught me to do. His face darkened with rage, but before he could respond, my mother appeared. It's time. The guests are all here. Sheikh Ibrahim is waiting. My father grabbed my arm roughly and pulled me out of the room. We walked down the hallway, down the spiral staircase with the cold marble steps, toward the grand ballroom where 600 people were waiting to witness my wedding. My funeral. My miracle. With each step, I felt the cross-shaped mark on my arm burning hotter. Not painful. Just present. Like Jesus was reminding me, I'm here. I'm with you. Don't be afraid. We reached the ballroom doors. I could hear music playing inside. Voices. Laughter. The sound of people celebrating. My father paused, his hand on the door handle. Last chance, Amira. Recant. Deny your apostasy. Save yourself. I looked him in the eyes. I can't save myself, Baba. Only Jesus can do that. But he already did. 2,000 years ago on a cross. I'm just finally accepting what he offered. My father's jaw clenched. Then he opened the doors. The ballroom was breathtaking. Flowers everywhere, roses, orchids, jasmine. Candles on every surface. Gold decorations hanging from the ceiling. 600 guests in their finest clothes, all turning to look as I entered. And at the front of the room, standing beside the imam who would perform the ceremony, was Sheikh Ibrahim. He was smiling, but his eyes were dead. Black. Empty. Just like in the dream. My father led me down the aisle. The wedding march played. People whispered about how beautiful I looked. How lucky Sheikh Ibrahim was. What a perfect match this was. They had no idea what was about to happen. We reached the front. My father handed me over to Sheikh Ibrahim like I was a package being delivered. The Sheikh's hand closed around my wrist, his grip tight enough to hurt. Beautiful, he murmured, looking me up and down like he was assessing property. Worth every rial. Your father has raised you well. You need to read the Bible. Start with the Gospel of John. Read about Jesus in his own words. Let him teach you. Let him transform you. You need to pray every day. Not ritual prayers. Not memorized words. Just talk to Jesus like he's your friend. Because he is. Tell him your fears. Your hopes. Your questions. Your struggles. He wants to hear it all. And you need to be prepared for the cost. Because there will be a cost. Your family might reject you. Your community might persecute you. You might have to escape like I did. You might face imprisonment or death. But Jesus will be with you. Every step. Every moment. Every breath. He'll never leave you. He'll never forsake you. And when this life is over, whether you die old and comfortable or young and martyred, you'll wake up in his presence. And it will all be worth it. Every tear. Every loss. Every sacrifice. All worth it. Because you'll see him face to face. You'll hear him say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You trusted me when it cost you everything. Now enter into your reward. And you'll spend eternity in perfect peace, perfect joy, perfect love. Forever. With him." That's the promise. That's the hope. That's the reality that makes all of this bearable. I'm going to end this testimony with the same words Jesus spoke to me in my dream. The words that changed my life. The words I pray over you right now, wherever you are. You are not alone. You are seen. You are known. You are loved. There is a God who hears you when you cry out. Who answers when you call. Who breaks chains and opens prison doors and works miracles for his children. His name is Jesus. And he's waiting for you. Call out to him. He'll answer. I promise. My name is Amira. I was born a Saudi princess. I was raised a Muslim. I was sold like property to a man who would have killed me. But Jesus found me. Saved me. Marked me as his own. And now I'm free. Free to worship. Free to speak. Free to love. Free to live. And I'm praying right now, as I record this, that you'll find that same freedom. That same Jesus. That same abundant, beautiful, costly, glorious life. Don't wait. Tomorrow might be too late. Call out to him today. Right now. This moment. He's listening. And he will answer. I promise.